What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of A Funko Popcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shaddy.
And in this podcast, it's actually one of our yearly traditions as terms to the podcast near the end of the year. Of course, more specifically titled this year as the best and worst of 2023. So how we do this podcast, if you're new here, is that we have 10 different categories that we go through as terms to Funko Pops. And within each of the categories, we determine the worst and the best as terms to these categories, whether it is like lineups of pops, there could be conventions that we'll get into, and even the very last category, which we'll save obviously for the end and not mention if you haven't listened to our podcast, but normally it's our big main eventer there. And we also actually, if you're used to viewing this kind of podcast every year, is that we have a brand new category. The one category we had of irregular pop, we decided to remove this year just because that one was very difficult for this year. So we have a brand new category we have, which will actually be the second last one that we mentioned here. But nonetheless, MD, are you ready for the best and worst of 2023?
Absolutely. I mean, there were some pretty good pops and there was also some not so good pops. So let's talk about them.
Alrighty, so the very first category here for the best and worst of 2023 is new pop lineup and series. Anything that is entirely brand new that came out in 2023. Nonetheless, I think how we'll do this is that I'll mention mine and then you'll mention yours. As terms to brand new pop lineup and series, as terms to, and we'll go worst and then best, obviously, the worst new pop lineup and series this year, in my opinion, has to be the Pop Classics lineup. For the most part, at first, it seemed very promising because we got characters like Lotso that haven't been made in over 10 years. But as the year went by, we just kept seeing, like, let's say, the first pop of different lineups that Funko still makes to this day, and just giving it that tin with the card and everything that it just doesn't feel very classic because Funko still produces that character today, and that you can easily just buy the regular pop instead of basically paying a premium. And then as terms of the best new lineup and series, I put the Disney 100 lineup. I think that set, even though there are some pops that are a little meh, like let's say the Facet Pops, for example, this lineup has brought like really cool moments from Disney that we didn't know were going to be like ever made. Like example, the first ever announcement this year for Disney 100 was the Hakuna Matata moments from The Lion King, arguably one of the best pops of the year thus far. And we also seen, like, at least for MD and I as 90s kids growing up in the early 2000s watching those Disney Channel TV shows and movies like High School Musical, Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, seeing pops like that were absolutely mind-blowing also. And then I even enjoyed like the little train set showing a bunch of different Disney lineups. Probably one of the better Trains pops, not gonna lie, compared to what we've seen the last couple of years. So I was really impressed with the Disney 100 set overall, minus maybe the Facet Pops and a couple different pops that I can't think of.
All right, so new series or set, starting off with the worst. This one was pretty easy for me because this set of pops was not great at all. And that is Blue Beetle Movie. Just terrible, terrible pop. Even to go to the extent of like at my local GameStop, the workers are joking, asking me if I want to buy the Blue Beetles pops because they're not going to sell them. They're not selling at all. They have them, or at least had them, in their own little section in the store away from the pops, and they just sat there and did nothing. It seems like a lot of the pops are very lackluster in the set as well. I haven't watched it, so I don't know how good it is, but these pops are just really, really bad, and they're super shelf sitters for sure. I think even when they end up going on clearance, if they haven't already at my local GameStop, they're going to sit there for a while still, even at a reduced price. And then moving on to the best set, though this set is still small, I think there is a lot of potential for it, and that is for the Trailer Park Boys. We were rumored, I guess, of the Trailer Park Boys pops for years now, and we finally got them in 2023, and they are amazing. I mean, Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles, all three pops look so good, and they even brought back the quotes on the box, and I think that this is a perfect set because Trailer Park Boys is such a quotable show. I feel like it's got to be one of the most quoted besides, let's say, maybe The Office, which also had quotes on the boxes. So it makes so much sense. And these pops look good. There's a chance that if we do end up getting more Trailer Park Boys pops, that we can get multiple of the same characters in different like scenarios or just different moments from the show, and that would be really good. And there's also a ton of other characters that we can get, but the 3 that we have so far are perfect. I mean, there's really no flaws with those pops.
All right, so the next category we have here is current pop lineup and series. And of course, this is way easier than new pop lineup and series because there's not always a lot of new stuff that gets made. And so for the worst, in my opinion, has to be the pop comic covers. There were a couple of different lineups that I thought about, but for different categories' sake, I didn't want to like repeat a lot of lineups. But for this sake, I think comic covers is the worst in my opinion, considering that we've been getting a lot of repeats of certain characters. The biggest example is seeing like 14 Wolverine comic covers, and I don't even think I'm exaggerating that number. Maybe by like a couple, like maybe it is only 9 or 10, but like there's still a lot of Wolverine where we could get so many of the first of a character. And I think the best current lineup in series, this one I had to go down the route of like not what I personally think because of like what I collect, but what I think overall, where you look at it, and it's like, this is a banger set of pops. And I got to go with One Piece. One Piece has been a fantastic lineup of pops. And even the most basic and simplistic One Piece pop is probably better than a lot of sets' best Funko Pops. And that's saying something. And I know we did get quite a bit of One Piece last year in 2022, but they really took it to a whole new level this year in 2023, where you can't even really say that there's actually a bad Funko Pop in a set, which is also rare to say overall.
All right, so moving on to the current sets, I could definitely see that me and DK were on the same kind of train of thought here, with the worst being I just put Marvel in general. So that does include the comic covers. I definitely took them into consideration because of those things that DK said. We got too many of the same character. Sometimes they don't match the covers. And then just the rest of the Marvel pops, it's kind of the same deal. We're getting a lot of pops of characters that we've already seen, and we're getting like newer, different things like I forget what they were called, the ones that look like they're kind of like cell shaded, like the comic book style, but it's all just the same characters. There's so many Marvel pops, and there were so many Marvel pops announced this year as terms to like blacklight pops and different ones for different movies and stuff like that, that it's just ridiculous. There's way too many Marvel pops at this point. For the best current set for 2023, I went with One Piece. Me and DK actually put the same thing, and DK summed it up pretty well. I mean, this set is full of bangers. There's such good pops, especially for 2023. Looking back at the OG set and then looking at what we've got now is insane. The sculpting on these pops are just amazing. And we've gotten some newer different things with One Piece as well, like the Wanted posters I thought were pretty good. And I don't know, it's just a really, really nice set. And like DK said, there's not really any misses with this. They're all really, really good pops. And I can't really think of a bad pop out of the set.
All right, the next category we have is retailer exclusives. Of course, we're talking about those huge, big name retailers. We're speaking of that. We did recently, a couple weeks ago, release a podcast basically talking about retailers and their different exclusives and what we think about that. But this year in 2023, what do we think is the worst retailer exclusives, and what do we think is the best? So for the worst, and this is kind of tying along to what I said on that podcast, the worst, in my opinion, is Target. There was a couple of different considerations for retailers, even some of the ones that don't have that many, but I also wanted to keep it to retailers that have like a bunch of exclusives. So I knew like Target was the worst, considering that even though there were a couple of decent pops, for the most part, it's just specification after specification, whether it is the abundance of blacklight pops, whether it is the common pop slapped in multi-packs, or even those 10-inch pops. And even the comic covers were really filled at Target. And even the pops that aren't specifications and they're brand new characters, I think every single one was from a show or movie or anything that I personally would not collect. So I am going more personal with this, but for the most part, too many 10-inch, too many blacklight, too many comic covers, too many of unnecessary pops, in my opinion. And then the best retailer exclusives, I think I said this one for last year also, in my opinion, and that is GameStop. I don't know if I will ever really say a bad thing about GameStop, and I feel that GameStop has a nice variety of pops, whether, of course, it is video game exclusives. There is a cool set of WWE pops, especially released this year, exclusive to GameStop. GameStop has a nice variety, and I feel like a lot of the best characters that are exclusives get shared to GameStop for some reason, or at least I find the ones that I would get, even for sets that I wouldn't get all the pops are, so happens to be at GameStop, which is very convenient because it is the closest retailer to me.
And just like that, moving on to the next thing being the retailers, of course, it looks like me and DK were on the same wavelength again. Worst, it's got to be Target. I was looking over the Target exclusives while making this list, and I was like, wow, this is brutal. And I've been to Target recently where over the past few different pods that we've done for worst and best, I hadn't been to Target. And yeah, the Target exclusives, there's a lot there, and they all kind of just suck, which is brutal because if I'm going to make the trip out to Target, of course, I'm from Canada, so I'm going over the border to the States and then going to Target and seeing just a bunch of nothing, really. Just a bunch of not great pops. Of course, there were some cool things, but it's just brutal. Target is brutal. And then moving on to the best, I'm going to say Walmart was a really close one this year, surprisingly, because Walmart is also very trash. But of course, it's got to go to GameStop. I mean, GameStop is just the best. You can pre-order pops there, which is amazing. I think the biggest thing is, like DK said, there's a huge range of different exclusives you can get. Like he said, you can get stuff from video games, you can get stuff from anime, and you can get stuff from like WWE or like just different stuff like that. It's such a wide variety that is so great.
The next category is convention. And unfortunately, compared to last year, there wasn't that many conventions. I remember last year there was, I think, at least 6 or 7, which was like the most we ever seen for conventions for Funko. So there was a wide variety last year. But this year, unless somehow, as we were recording this, which we are in the middle of November, that they just pop up another convention, there was only 3 conventions this year for Funko, that being WonderCon, San Diego Comic-Con, and New York Comic-Con. I never considered those tiny conventions like Target Con or the Hot Topic Scare Fair, I guess, as an example for this year, or as we are recording this and hasn't been confirmed, there's also like an upcoming like Hot Topic holiday thing like they did last year, I believe, or like a box lunch one. I don't exactly know. But without further ado, as terms to these 3, the worst, in my opinion, I have to say it's WonderCon. And it really pains me to say that because I'm always a fan of said underdog convention, as I always like to mention, because of course, everyone always talks about San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, but there's never really a lot of love as terms to the third Comic-Con. And for most years, it was Emerald City Comic-Con, and we haven't seen that since 2021. So WonderCon this year kind of took the place of that. And even though it was a bigger selection for WonderCon this year, instead of the prior years, which normally it is a tiny convention, it still wasn't as big as we've seen it with San Diego and New York Comic-Con this year, although there were some cool pops. One of them I can name off the top of my head is the newer Gelatinous Cube, which is a pretty banger pop and one of the most detailed Comic-Con exclusives overall, but unfortunately, WonderCon just falls short. And then for the best this year is very surprising because I never go with this convention, and that is San Diego Comic-Con. Normally, the easy route is saying New York Comic-Con, considering like whenever we see San Diego Comic-Con reveals, we always know like, okay, New York Comic-Con, there's always so much heat, brand new different kinds of Funko Pops, even like cooler pops for sets that we collect. But there was something about New York Comic-Con this year that just kind of fell short compared to prior years' New York Comic-Cons. Don't get me wrong. There were some banger pops, especially ones that we haven't seen for lineups like the Key Demon for Insidious and like the No Heart for Care Bears. But there was something that just kind of fell short about. While with San Diego, there was quite a variety of cool pops, especially one that obviously I have to mention is the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack, something brand new, something that seems like it would be New York Comic-Con because it's brand new, but was for San Diego Comic-Con. We got the newer Tony the Tiger pops, including a flocked pop, the 001 for Stranger Things that was released before the common one, but this one is still better. The first dude from the Big Lebowski in like 10 years being made. And then the variety of Freddy Funkos we got, including like the trophy and the floaty one, and then having the proto, was really awesome. And I think the big thing about this convention is I don't remember the last time we had gotten as many limited piece count pops at a convention as we did for this year's San Diego Comic-Con. There was a good 5 or 6 limited piece counts, and that's pretty decent considering that a lot of times we only see 1, maybe 2 limited piece count pops as terms to a convention, while this year we had quite a bit of limited piece counts, which people were requesting, but at the same time, there are a lot of people that don't want limited piece counts because they are expensive in the secondary market. But kudos to San Diego Comic-Con winning this year, but who knows? Will they win next year? I don't exactly know.
All right, now moving on to me. I think they all sucked, honestly. We haven't really seen this where all of the cons were kind of garbage, honestly, which is sad to say because we usually look forward to cons and exclusives. And don't get me wrong, there's been a couple pops from each of the cons that are needs for my collection. But overall, I don't know, they just seem so lackluster nowadays. But the worst of them all was definitely WonderCon, which, like DK said, it's definitely hard to say because WonderCon is pretty awesome. Quite enjoy WonderCon, but this year just not that great. But like I said, none of them were really amazing in my opinion. But the best of the three definitely is San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, there was some fire for sure. There were some really good pops. But again, it just seems like there's kind of this repeat of like characters a little bit and just nothing too insane. Of course, like DK had mentioned with the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack from San Diego Comic-Con, that's definitely the highlight from the con, I would say. There was other good stuff too, but yeah, San Diego Comic-Con is the best out of the three, but it's not by much.
And then speaking of convention, the next category is convention exclusive pops. So literally winding it down from those 3 conventions of WonderCon, San Diego Comic-Con, and New York Comic-Con, and only choosing 1 pop. And a little bit of a spoiler kind of, I actually chose 2 from the same convention. And it's funny enough, it's actually from WonderCon that I considered as the worst convention of the 3 when it came to the previous category. So the worst pop, which of course, like I mentioned, was from WonderCon, is Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. And it's because this was a very basic pop, especially for anime that normally brings the heat as terms to Comic-Con. It just didn't seem like it was an anime pop. It seemed more like it was like a TV show pop or something along the lines of that, or even a movie rather than from an anime. It was so basic, not even some sort of object in the hand. It's just like a hand positioned up, if I'm not mistaken. And then the best Comic-Con exclusive or convention exclusive, in my opinion, this year, this one I am going the personal route, is the Pop Classics of Lotso. As a huge Toy Story fan, I have been wanting a Lotso Pop for a long time, but of course didn't want to pay the 3-digit price of the regular one or the $2,000 price point of the D23 2011 flocked version. And so when the classics came out, it's like, this is the time to get it. I know that most people would probably pick a certain other pop as a best convention exclusive, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is listed as MD's favorite convention exclusive, but I have it saved for a different category, which is why I didn't mention it here.
Okay, so I also have my worst and my best from the same con. They're not WonderCon, though. They are San Diego Comic-Con. And the worst that I went with, Ariel from The New Little Mermaid, which was shared to Target again, so that kind of made me pick Target as well for one of the worst. And I did see that pop at Target when I went there. But that pop is just real bad for a con exclusive. It's from a movie that had some mixed hype for sure. Such a basic pop of a character that already has a pop that is almost identical. It was just super pointless and definitely not a con pop at all. It was very, very brutal. And then for the best, I think DK probably knows what it is. And it is, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con 3-pack from the Fairly Odd Parents, Timmy Turner, and then we have Cosmo and Wanda as well. Amazing. An amazing 3-pack, an amazing exclusive. A couple different reasons why. It was super wanted by many, many people. So many people wanted to see the Fairly Odd Parents finally get Funko Pops. But when you think about it, at a con, you're really only expecting to get like, okay, maybe we're giving you Timmy Turner as the first Fairly Odd Parents pop, or we're giving you a 2-pack of Cosmo and Wanda. But nope, they went with a 3-pack, and it is amazing. It's one of those pops where if they did, let's say, put out a bunch of Fairly Odd Parents pops, you could probably just get that con exclusive and call it a day. But of course, if they do put out more, I definitely want to get them. I kind of have this 3-pack reserved from an old coworker of mine. He had got one, and he no longer wants it, I suppose. So he's going to be selling me that, which is amazing because it is arguably one of the best pops of the year and definitely the best con exclusive, in my opinion.
All right, so the next category is the best and worst multi-pack of 2023. There's quite a decent amount of multi-packs. However, it was very bombarded with those multi-packs where it is just already existing commons, slap them in, and you add a, let's say, Walmart or Target exclusive sticker, and maybe even one of them is a specification while the rest is just the same. So for the worst multi-pack, I actually forgot that this existed. It is, and I don't even know if it was exclusive to anywhere, because from when I posted it on our Instagram, I didn't show a sticker, but it is a 4-pack of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 pops that were blacklight. This is just ridiculous. Like, first off, nobody's talking about Guardians 2 anymore. I get it. There was hype for the 3rd movie coming out this year, but why was it a thing of making pops for the 2nd movie when, of course, you already were announcing pops for the 3rd? We don't care about the 2nd movie at this point. And not only that, you took pops that already existed and just added that blacklight specification. And even the blacklight, if you look at that multi-pack I'm talking about, is not the greatest colorways for blacklight. And it was so awful. And I just think it was one of the most pointless pops that has ever been done, especially for a multi-pack. And then for the best multi-pack, if people disagree with this, I don't know what kind of crack you're smoking, but I did tease this when talking about the convention exclusive pop, and it's basically what MD mentioned, and that is the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. Like I mentioned, normally I don't like repeating stuff, so instead of mentioning it as the best convention exclusive, I wanted to save it for multi-pack because it literally is the best multi-pack. It may even be one of the only good multi-packs as it is, because like I mentioned, a lot of the multi-packs this year made by Funko were just already existing common characters that you can get singularly and then slap them in there with a Walmart or Target exclusive sticker, and then maybe one of them has a specification, while we have 3 brand new characters that have never been made into pop form, especially for a lineup that has never had Funko Pops. It was highly sought after. It is a decent penny at the moment on the secondary market, and it's something people have been wanting for a long time.
All right, so for best and worst of multi-packs, for the worst, I went with the Target exclusive Wakanda Forever 4-pack, pretty much in the same vein as the Blacklight set that DK had mentioned, that it's just pops that are thrown together pretty much, and then I think it has a glow-in-the-dark aspect to probably only one of the pops. It's just so unnecessary. I really wish Funko would quit doing this. I believe they probably will stop doing stuff like this when it comes to years moving forward, because they just don't need to produce this stuff. It really just does not need to happen. And then moving on to the best multi-pack of the year. Like DK said, we don't really like doubling up on pops, but for this one, I think it's a no-brainer. It has to be the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. I know I used it for the con exclusive, but I thought it was the best con exclusive, and I also think it's the best multi-pack, and it's like not even close. It's miles better than any other multi-pack, or in my opinion, any other Comic-Con exclusive, though there was some pretty good stuff. But yeah, it's just so amazing. And like I mentioned earlier, to get all 3 of them in one for the first Fairly Odd Parents pops is just so awesome. You can get all 3 of them at once. You don't have to worry about finding all 3 of these pops. You just get the one package, you get all 3 pops, and they definitely did very, very well with this. They overachieved, I guess you can say, with this one, because they really did not need to give us all 3 in one. They could have gave us just a Timmy Turner. They could have just gave us the 2-pack of Wanda and Cosmo, and we would have been happy like that. But we're even happier that it is a 3-pack. It just makes so much sense, and it's a beautiful set.
Speaking of overachieving, the next category on this list is what we call the Overachiever and Underachiever. Of course, Underachiever being the worst part of this, and then Overachiever being the best. And in this category is based off of characters that Funko has made pops multiples of. And there's quite a bit of times where Funko will make so many Batmans or make so many of a superhero or just a character in general. And so there is definitely quite a bit of that this year with the Overachiever and Underachiever, which is one of my favorite categories when it comes to this type of podcast. So as turns to the Underachiever, and it's actually something that MD mentioned earlier, and it plays to why I don't like repeating things also, is Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle has some terrible pops, and especially when you have 5 different Blue Beetle pops that basically all look the same for the most part. It is like one's flying, and then one's like flying with an arm out or something. It's just so ridiculous. They all look fairly similar, especially when it comes to like the Common and Chase. And the Overachiever is something I had to really think about because Funko didn't really post much about this certain, not even character, it's actually a person that I put here, and that's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has had a ton of Funko Pops this year with this huge like resurgence of a lineup after basically that initial thing about like them removing Michael Jackson from the Funko app because of the estate not wanting it on there, but then now they have the license again. So there was a ton of great Michael Jackson pops, like every single one of them. There wasn't a bad one. You had the Smooth Criminal one, the bad covers. There's also the Thriller covers where he's actually in the white jacket and he's doing the pose on the cover, the actual Thriller remake where he's wearing the red jacket, and even that like Funko Shop exclusive Diamond Collection pop, which is actually a banger. Normally, we don't like Diamond Collection pops, but the right amount of glitter was put onto that, and it was a great looking Funko Pop. So Michael Jackson has had a ton of great Funko Pops this year, and I'm glad that Michael Jackson is a person that is getting Funko Pops again because those OG4 were great. Now we're getting new ones, and I can't wait to see what possible ones we get in the year of 2024. But 2023, Michael Jackson pops, every single one was a banger.
All right, so for my underachiever this year is one that I actually kind of mentioned earlier, and that's Spider-Man, unfortunately. Though there are a couple really good Spider-Man pops that we've seen this year, most of them are not that great. I mean, we have the Facet, which is okay, I guess, but it's nothing too crazy. There's the like Christmas Spider-Man, which is just kind of unnecessary. And then the Overachiever that I went with is kind of different because the pops for this character aren't necessarily totally different, but I thought there was a lot of really good ones, and that is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones has gotten quite a bit of really awesome pops this year, whether it's other characters or Indiana Jones himself. I love that you get the little base that the pop goes on. I think that that's really cool for the Indiana Jones pops. And we also seen a lot of really, really great Indiana Jones pops with the different moments pops that we've seen, especially like the Boulder Escape.
The next category is also one of those unique categories that we love doing. It is called the OMG and WTF Moment of the Year. The times when you would see a Funko Pop announcement or a Funko Pop in general and either think, oh my God, this is amazing, which is the best part, or what the am I looking at right now? That is basically the worst of this category. And so let's start off with WTF. And I'm not going to lie, I think maybe MD might have this too. I'm not exactly sure. Or maybe he might hear what I have to say and like change it to what I said, because this was literally a huge WTF. And that is the pearlescent Pokemon Pops. That is such a huge what the because when we originally heard this announcement from the Pokemon Center, like these cool brand new Pokemon Pops, it's like, oh my God, are we getting like characters we haven't, or Pokemon we haven't seen before, or something that we've been requesting for a long time are shiny Pokemon Pops? And that's what we thought was going, because I think they gave the whole silhouette of Pikachu, and it's like, oh my God, this may be what's happening, is shiny Pokemon, only for it to be this weird shiny metallic version with a little like purple tint to it or whatever. And it was the biggest WTF moment this year. And we keep seeing these pops like Pikachu, all the other starters. Mewtwo just got recently announced not too long ago, and I think there's also an Eevee, if I'm not mistaken. mistaken. And then maybe one more, I'm not exactly sure. But nonetheless, pearlescent Pokemon Pops were so garbage to see. And it almost made me want to add Pokemon to like the worst set of Pops this year. But with the Pops that we got new Pokemons of, that kind of saved it from that category. Plus, I don't like repeating, like I mentioned. So pearlescent Pops, WTF moment of the year. And the OMG moment of the year, in my opinion, was something that MD also mentioned earlier, and that is the announcement of Trailer Park Boys Pops. Oh my God, we finally got Trailer Park Boys Pops. They all look amazing. Only 3, but it's literally as you would think of all 3 characters, especially Ricky. And he's got the cigarette in his mouth. You got Julian with the glass in his hand, and then Bubbles, he's holding the kitty. That was such an OMG moment. Had to get the Pops, have them all. Hope there's more when it comes to 2024 because, oh man, it's already a great lineup thus far. And I want to see more from the Trailer Park Boys lineup. That was a definite OMG moment because that crossed off my initial wish list since beginning collecting Funko Pops.
All right, so the WTF moment this year for me is also the pearlescent Pokemon Pops. Definitely is a WTF. It just makes no sense. There's the metallic ones already. Why do you need pearlescent? It's not that much different. They don't look great, and people want shiny Pops. We don't even have a Gengar Pop yet, which is mind-blowing to me, but we have so many different versions of your Pikachus, your Squirtles, your Blastoise, or not Blastoise, Bulbasaur, Charmander, as well as like Mewtwo and Eevee, which I believe are the different Pops, the 6 Pops that have the pearlescent factor to them, which is just nuts. I really don't think we need this. I don't know if there's anyone who really loves these Pops. I'm sure there might be people out there that are like, oh, these are cool, but it's just super, super unnecessary. And then my oh my God moment, OMG moment of the year has to go to the Indiana Jones Boulder Escape movie moments. What a crazy pop. Might be the best pop of the year. Very similar to the ET pop that we seen last year. This thing is just amazing. Of course, you got Indy, he's running, and then you got that huge boulder with an awesome scenery to it, which is just so nice looking. I've considered buying this to add to my collection to display out of box because of how great it is. Though I'm not a huge fan of Indiana Jones, I think that this pop is amazing, and I definitely said, oh my God, when I seen it.
All right, so the second last category we have, and it's the brand new category that hopefully we keep continuing every year because this also is a huge part of our channel nowadays, and that is the best and worst redeemable NFT Funko Pops. As you see on our channel, we do a lot of Funko NFT content. Whenever the drops happen, we even did a bonus video recently with like 6 random packs from different sets, in which for this, it's not like what we've gotten this year in 2023 because we haven't actually got the redeemable Pops yet. This is everything that has been shipped out and delivered to your house in the year of 2023, which the majority of it will be anything from 2022, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the only ones from 2023 that actually were able to ship out and deliver to your house this year were the very first 2 packs, which were the Sid and Marty Croft drop and the Nickelodeon Series 2 drop. The worst one out of all of them, as terms to a specific Funko Pop, has got to be the gold Optimus Prime from the Transformer set. It is actually the grail of the set, and it's simply because it is just one colorway. There's nothing really too exciting. We've seen pretty much that molding of Optimus Prime, I believe, besides actually whatever object he's holding in the hand. So it's nothing too special, but did make sense as the grail because not everyone is going to want just a gold color variant of an already existing Transformer, of course. And then for the best one is something that I feel like people wouldn't think that I would say, but I say it because it's such an amazing pop, and that is the slimed Freddy Funko from the very first Nickelodeon set. This pop is wicked. You have Freddy Funko holding the blip in his hand as if he were at the Nickelodeon Choice Awards, and he's got the slime all over him like you see at the awards where like sometimes they get dumped on with slime. It was so well done, and I was hoping that they make some sort of remake when it came to the second one instead of the Reptar Freddy Funko, but nonetheless, there's something about that pop that still to this day, I kind of wish I actually went in on that drop and got the royalty.
All right, so now my best and worst for the NFT pops. This one was pretty easy. The worst, in my opinion, is the Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones drop. It's not necessarily a bad pop, but we've seen a bunch of Jon Snow pops. I don't think it's something that you necessarily want to buy a bunch of packs so you can get that redeemable. It's a good pop, but like I said, it's just we've had so many Jon Snows that you don't really need to go out and buy a bunch of packs. It just doesn't make sense. There were some good pops from that set, but the Jon Snow was definitely super lackluster in my opinion. And then moving on to the best NFT pop. This one was very easy for me. It is an NFT pop that I have in my collection, and that is Foghorn Leghorn from the Looney Tunes drop. Oh, I love Foghorn Leghorn, my favorite character from Looney Tunes. And when this came out, I knew that I needed to buy packs and I needed to get this pop. It is so good. It's amazing. It's so cool how the posing is perfect for Foghorn, where he has the one finger up where he's about to say, like, I say, boy. And then it's also a poppin' buddy because you get Henry Hawk as well with him, which is just so wicked. Such a great pop. And I'm so thankful to have it in my collection. Definitely one of my favorites from the year, which is surprising from NFT pops.
All right, so now the very last category, and we've always had this for this best and worst, and that is Chase Funko Pop, the best and worst Chase Pops. And I found this year it was kind of difficult to do this list because there actually weren't that many Chase Funko Pops. Like there was a decent amount, but like ones that you can actually say like, okay, that's all right. But like, what's a Chase Pop that you can look at and it's like, boom, like that's an amazing Chase Pop. There wasn't that many. And for this list, it's funny enough, when I determined the worst Chase Pop, the first one I seen was the one I chose because there was no way that there was any other chase that was going to be made that I felt was going to be the worst. And that is the die-cast Mickey Mouse chase. First off, the die-cast chase suck because all is just silver. I get it for the aspect of it being what it would be as a prototype because it's made of metal. But then I think what makes it specifically Mickey Mouse and not, let's say, any of the other characters that have gotten the die-cast treatment this year, is that Mickey Mouse makes no sense whatsoever to be die-cast at all. We've seen characters like Captain America and like Black Panther be die-cast, and that makes sense because like Captain America has his shield, and like Black Panther has like vibranium outfit, which vibranium is a type of metal, so that makes sense, and you have Thor because of the Mjolnir. But Mickey Mouse, he's not metal whatsoever. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe if it was Mickey Mouse in like Kingdom Hearts, okay, I would let that slide. But Mickey Mouse, just the regular old version as it was shown, was just a garbage idea for a die-cast pop. And then, of course, the silver chase pops being like the worst chases ever. And for the best chase, I actually went with Beth Phoenix for the WWE lineup because there wasn't too many chases this year where they have the categories of what I like as terms to a chase, where it is a completely different mold. It's not like here's the same mold, but it's got a glow in the dark or metallic or flock specification. There is a completely different mold, especially when it comes to the common Beth Phoenix. It's her from like '07. But then the chase is a completely different mold because it's her today. She's got a different hairstyle, different outfit. It's a different posing. I believe last year I even chose a WWE pop as terms to a chase. So clearly Funko knows how to make chases when it comes to WWE pops, but for a lot of the other lineups, they just aren't the greatest, especially anime when, let's say with Child's Collectibles, glow-in-the-dark chase.
All right, so now for the worst chase of the year, in my opinion, that's got to go to the Blue Beetle Glow Chase. I mean, I talked about Blue Beetle earlier, how the pops were super lackluster and sat around, and this chase is bad too. It's just a glow chase. I'm not huge on glow chases unless they make a ton of sense and are amazing with great glows, but this is Blue Beetle. I believe that the glow-in-the-dark aspect is blue as well on it, which is not a great color when it comes to glow-in-the-dark, and this just seems like one of those chases where people don't really want the normal pop to begin with, so the chase is not really going to appreciate and value. And I don't know what it's sitting at right now, but I can't imagine it's much more than the common itself because it's just so unnecessary. These pops were so terrible. And then the best chase of the year, I also went with Beth Phoenix. It's really a perfect chase. The whole pop is different, and that is what we look for when it comes to great chases. You don't want to see just like an object change in the hand. You want to see a whole new body and a whole new head. It is a completely different pop, and that is amazing. And like DK had mentioned, it's from two different eras of Beth Phoenix, which I think is amazing.
Anyways, guys, that is going to be the end of this edition of a Funko Popcast. And if you enjoyed our best and worst of 2023 edition of a Funko Popcast, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your opinions in the comment section below, even if you want to take the time to make your own opinion of each of the categories we talked about. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening to this edition of a Funko Popcast, and we hope to see you guys on the next edition. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Peace in, peace out.